Daniel Tal is well known in the world of landscape architecture and for his 3D modelling and rendering skills which he's keen to share. His new book, Rendering in SketchUp, is out on March 25th, so in preparation for the big launch, we wanted to talk to him to find out more. Thanks for talking to us today, Daniel.
Hello, Kate. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Can you give us a bit of background to who you are and what you do?
So I am a landscape architect. I graduated in 1998 from Colorado State University, and from there I worked for 14 years in an office. My primary responsibilities were project management, design, CAD work, typical CAD work for overseeing construction, and then doing marketing proposal work. I used SketchUp in that capacity while working in these offices to help with our projects.
So how long have you been using SketchUp?
That's a good question. I think there was a landscape architect I was working with at Edon named Mark Cosmos, and I think he introduced it to us in that office in a presentation in 2003. And I was working on a Colorado Department of Transportation project. It was a rest area, a natural area, and I just used it for the first 2 weeks. I just sat down for 2 weeks and just used it obsessively. Modeled the buildings, modeled the site, all that kind of stuff.
So did you render your models at that time, or did that come later on?
Actually, that's an interesting thing. I actually did try some rendering programs back then. I was using Eon View. It was View 3. And there was a couple of other rendering programs that were out. So I actually was rendering models back then. The thing is the resources, computer-wise, software-wise, wasn't as readily available now. Like the type of computer you can get now for rendering versus what you could use then. So it was a longer process, and it wasn't as readily available. So I put that aside for a while and came back to rendering later.
So you've been writing your new book for a while. It's out later this month. What made you just decide to write the book?
Self-torture, really trying to inflict pain. No, I'm just kidding. You know, there was an original, I wrote the first book, and right after it got published, Wiley came up and said, would you like to do another one? And I was like, you're crazy. That's a lot of work. But we sat down and worked out a proposal for an advanced modeling book on SketchUp. So it would have been more delving beyond the first book and really focusing on Ruby scripts, site design, terrain modeling. We switched halfway through the process and said, well, let's do a book on rendering. There's not a lot of introductory books on rendering. There's not a lot of books guiding people through the entire process that are just coming to SketchUp for the first time or been using it for a little while but unsure how to render. And the entire process took 18 months. And it's a big book. It's 42 chapters with an additional 7 chapters online for free. It's not intended for people to read as one chunk. It's a reference manual, so you can pick and go through it. So someone who's already using SketchUp will have an idea how they can use this book to go through and pick out the information they need. Other people that are coming to rendering for the first time will get tidbits and hopefully good reference material on how to use certain tools in a certain way, how to organize your model, and then specific settings for programs like Shaderlight.
Excellent. So you mentioned Shaderlight there. You use a variety of software throughout the book. Why did you choose to focus on Shaderlight in particular?
You know, that's a good question. One of the best reasons is at the heart of doing kind of rendering in SketchUp is, especially if you're using SketchUp, we're not talking about studio programs like 3ds Max or anything like that, but working in SketchUp, you really have to get your texturing correct. So you have to get the right textures and apply them, and then the next part is really applying texture values that programs like Shaderlight provide. Shaderlight, in my mind, has the easiest and most best understood values for textures. I mean, it's just very straightforward. It's not that hard to explain to people. You can go through there. It's the way that Shaderlight does reflections or diffusion and the bump mapping is, again, it's not that big a leap for people in terms of how you describe it. And it was very easy in the book. I have rendered images from Shaderlight, tons of them, that are annotated with very specific settings. So specific for whether you're going to do shiny or glossy or satin or whatever it might be. Spend a couple of sections on how to do water and glass. And there was a learning process to get there for me to kind of, well, I understand how to do it now I have to explain it. But that's one of the primary reasons. The other reason is the dynamic rendering. I love that. I can change views on the fly. You know, with any Shaderlight kind of setting that I use for a model, in 2 or 3 hours I can produce 8 to 10 images, and then I take them into post-production in Photoshop. So it's the ease of use, how straightforward it is, its speed. It's pretty good for what it does in that capacity.
So it makes the ideal complement to SketchUp then?
Yes, it does. It's an ideal complementary program for SketchUp in terms of rendering. And it's a great place for people, especially if people are new to rendering, it's a great place for people to start.
Excellent. Thanks, Daniel. So as I said, the book's out on March 25th. We look forward to seeing it.
Thank you. Yeah, the print edition's out March 25th. The digital edition is already out.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your time today, Dan, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, thank you very much, and thanks for having me.